I think one of the biggest mistakes that I've made when I started uploading videos on YouTube was starting with the topic of Unity. This number one character movement tutorial, this was one of the very first videos that I uploaded publicly on YouTube. And I was super naive back then. I was thinking I was rather hoping that my future viewers would have at least the same level of experience and knowledge in coding that I have. And I'm not even an expert. I'm self-taught. It's not like I'm a seasoned veteran or anything. Most of my knowledge is based on surface level, some practical uses of certain functions and patterns. And that's about it. And I think that is the minimum requirement of coding knowledge that you need if you want to build your own game, unless you hire a programmer. And that's minimum. If you have less, I think it could be a problem. But what I didn't know was that the number or the percentage of the people that have absolutely zero experience in coding, and I used to be one of them, the percentage of the viewers that have absolutely zero percentage or absolutely zero knowledge, the percentage of those people were a lot higher than I thought. And I could tell this by the questions. Many of the questions, which I did not expect, many of the questions that I received on my Discord server was based on the fact that some of my viewers don't understand even the basic uses of functions and classes, let alone create a linked list. Something really basic like writing tic-tac-toe in C or C++, writing snake, those classic basic games, or I guess you can call them coding assignments. Many of the people couldn't do that, which means if you look at an artist and the artist tells you, I'm not good with pencil and paper, I don't know how to draw human faces, I don't know how human bones are structured, or I don't know how to draw human muscles, that guy's not exactly an artist in terms of artists that draw, your game characters and so forth. That person's not an artist. In the same sense, if you think you're a programmer by downloading Unity and you don't know how to code, you don't know how to create your own customized solutions for specific problems that you never expected, if you don't know how to express certain ideas in code, you're not a programmer, you're not a game developer. So I'm thinking about creating C++ tutorials going way back, because these tutorials focus more on the very superficial level of just typing stuff, following along, knowing where which buttons are. I mean, those kind of things do have some value on their own, but then it's pretty shallow. I mean, in order to record my entire process and not spend more time than I already did, I had to skip a lot of the basics, a lot of the fundamental ideas why I do things. And to me, the only way to understand those fundamental ideas is to go through trial and error, go through one project after another, finish one project after another, go through C, C++. These days, I don't think people start with C, but in game development, I think C++ is pretty much a requirement. Go through creating 2D games using just C++ and some rendering library without using a game engine, which is extremely complex. It's got a lot of abstract layers that you never thought about using. Just get down to the basics of floats and bools and your own structures or architecture on how you want to express your ideas and write it in code. So all those things are skipped and they have to be skipped when I do these tutorials. So I'm thinking about going back all the way back to the basic dealing with raw data like strings and floats. This is just a default template that you get when you create a console app in Visual Studio 2019. So this is just a string. I'm thinking about starting from here, the typical hello world, and moving up to maybe some console apps like calculators and MP3 players, or I could even move on to text games, text-based dungeon games, or later I might even move on to simple 2D games. This is just another sample that I found online. If I run this, we get a simple window. We can render stuff here, and once you're able to render stuff with C++ and some API, you can create a 2D game, and you don't even have to build a generalized engine. You can build your piece of software that is specifically designed for the scope of your game and your game only. And by running these type of, or finishing these type of projects, you learn things along the way that will help you approach many different problems that you encounter, unexpected problems that you encounter using commercial game engines. And when I look at some of my viewers in Unity, they don't want to learn this. They don't want to learn coding. They just want to download Unity and go straight to building a AAA game or their dream game. And if you ask me, that's just not going to happen. That's physically not possible. There are some exceptions where if a game is geared more towards being a beautiful looking graphical novel, I'm not sure what the specific name of the genre is called. If your game is more of a beautiful looking animation, sort of an interactive, good looking animation, in that case, the level of minimum requirement for your coding knowledge or experience is way lower than what I'm talking about in this video. But I'm just saying that's just not my cup of tea. I like games like Super Mario. I have an example here, or example of a Google search result. I like games like Super Mario, that it's more based on more fast-paced action, more combats. Games like Prince of Persia. If you compare these things to modern games, these are extremely simple. But then if you ask someone to build Super Mario from scratch like this is a rather advanced coding topic. And a lot of my viewers don't know how to do this. Some of my viewers even will call this shit. Like literal, I'm quoting him here. He called this shit, the basic fundamental C++ coding. He called it shit. He called it Stone Age. I'm quoting. He said, I don't want to do this. I want to go straight to Unity, build a good looking dream game, something like, I don't know, I'm thinking he's building trying to build some sort of a AAA game, or I think he was trying to build parkour, something like Mirror's Edge, or something that is graphically challenging to achieve, and it's something that is done in complete 3D. I mean, both in terms of coding and graphics, that is something that if you're a beginner, you're not going to be able to do. And my answer to that is, well, the philosophical answer, the more simplified version is that, I forgot the exact quote or the exact idiom. A drowning man is not going to learn how to swim. And I see a lot of my viewers drowning themselves in Unity. There's so many different layers and different options, physics, render pipelines, so many different options regarding the 3D world space. There's just so much info that you have to take, and I don't even know how Unity works. I just know certain manuals and functions and buttons, and that's about it. And if you are one of those viewers that have even less knowledge than I do, and you want to build a AAA game, the result is pretty obvious. If you jump into the ocean and you've never been in the water, I would bet 99.99% chance that you're going to die. And I made a similar I made a similar comparison when I made this video. I compared GameDev to an RPG game. If you go straight to the boss, you're gonna die. In the same sense, if you want to learn how to swim and the first thing you do is jump into the ocean, you're not going to learn how to swim. You're going to have a better chance being in shallow waters, being in a swimming pool, go through the basics. And to me, C++ is pretty much the basics, the minimum level of basics for game development. And a lot of people will disagree with me on this. If you just Google things like, should I learn C++? And I added game development here just to narrow down the scope a little bit. Some people will agree, some people will disagree. But to me, like I said, if you want your game to be relatively complex, combat-y, fast-paced action, if you want your game to have those things, rather than something that looks more like an animation, then you probably need to learn C++, learn how to manage data, learn how to create decent systems and mechanics that are modular, and you can put them together and they all work together to create a cohesive single video game. And even Unity runs on C++. I don't know what goes on underneath, but Unity uses C++, even though we use C# as a scripting language. And one of the answers that I like regarding should you learn C++ was that I can't quote him exactly, or her, but it was something like C++ will give you a lot more control than most modern programming languages. Modern languages like including C#, Java, Python, those kind of type of languages. C++ will give you a lot more control. And if you just think about it, things like pointers and other languages using garbage collectors, and you have to control everything in C++. Well, not everything, but many things in C++. If you have control, you have to learn how to exercise that control. And the person was saying, by learning how to exercise that type of control, you get a deeper understanding on how things work. And from there, if I add my opinion, that deeper understanding on how C++ works or how your game runs, that translates to your skills in solving problems that you never expected that you would face. And a big part of game dev is about solving unexpected problems. It's basically software architecture. You design your code to encompass certain expected problems or issues. You want to solve those. But at the same time, you want to be able to solve problems that you never expected. And for me, the only way to learn that is trial and error, go through different projects step by step. And the first step would probably be, if you ask me, it would be start from hello world and just go step by step up the ladder and work your way up to things like Win32 API, DirectX. And once you do that, I mean, at that point, 99% of the people will probably give up. And I've seen most people give up before they reach DirectX, before they reach the point where they're even able to build a simple 2D game, let alone tic-tac-toe or Snake. I've mapped out the path that I took in this video, how I became an indie game developer version 2. Most people give up before they learn how to code, before they can create an even simple 2D game. So the reason why I recommend C++ if you're a beginner is that first you want to know whether you hate it or not. If you do, stop wasting time and look into different ways to becoming a game developer other than programming. That would be my first step. Find out whether you hate game dev or not in terms of coding. And then if you do, you want to go down the rabbit hole. How do you render a cube? How do you render a simple box? How do you create a window? And even creating a single window where your game is shown, even this is pretty difficult to understand. There's so many different options. And this is just code that I copy pasted from somewhere online. but there's a lot of stuff involved in just rendering a cube or a 2D box. And if you want to build something like Tetris, which some people call shit, but if you try to do that, you'll realize that it's not so simple. And you have to be able to write your or express your ideas into code. Whether your idea is tic-tac-toe or Tetris or Snake, or later on it could be a little more complex than that. But then if you're not able to do that, you're just not going to be able to build your game, at least the type of games that I'm talking about. I remember back when I was starting out, I was really desperate. I just started randomly calling or emailing, just trying to contact professionals in whatever shape or form possible. The path that I took is one of the things that the guy told me. It was in Korean, so you guys can't understand, but the general direction is learn C++, learn to create console apps, move on to Win32 API. Is it Windows API or Win32 API? I forgot can't remember the exact term, but create simple 2D games using just C++ and some rendering library, and then move on to DirectX, and then move on to Unity. That's what the guy told me. And it was a reasonably credible source. And I live in a reasonably big city, relatively big city, Seoul, South Korea. We have professional game developers or game dev studios that make millions and sometimes billions of dollars per year in game development. And this is similar to something the guy told me. This is just some random piece of info that I found online. This guy organized and wrote down the job requirements of those $1 million or $1 billion making companies, video game companies. And one of the first thing you're going to notice, you're not going to read Korean, but one of the first thing you're going to notice is C++, C++. C# here. This is not very common, but there's C++ everywhere, right? There's a reason for that. There's a reason why professional game dev studios are looking for people with C++ skills. And in most cases, if you go to those interviews, if you actually talk to them, they're not just looking for C++. They're looking for your general understanding in being able to write code, read code, solve problems in code. And in many cases, the people that they're looking for, they have at least they know at least 2 or 3 different languages. They're proficient in multiple languages. And a lot of it is based on the fact that the coding principles don't really change. The problem itself doesn't change. The coding language is just a different way to express things. And every language has pros and cons, but they're also looking for your ability to solve or express the same idea in different languages. I think that also translates to your deeper understanding of how a piece of software works. And it's the same thing with human language. If you can express the same idea in multiple languages, you probably understand that concept a little more culturally, socially. By definition, you understand it from multiple angles. Anyways, when you know multiple languages, including C++ in game dev, that translates to your ability to solve problems. And going back to my viewers that I see on my Discord server, their coding experience is 0, which means their ability to solve coding problems is close to 0. Unless a lot of them, unless there's some magical line that solves everything for them. If they're lucky, that happens every once in a while, 1 out of 100 times. And that's all they're looking for. It's really strange. They're always looking for, give me a single line that makes my character jump like Super Mario, or give me a single line that makes me shoot BFG from Doom give me another single line that makes my character do ledge climbing like Prince of Persia. So according to them, if you give them 3 different lines of code, they can build their dream game that encompasses aspects of Super Mario, aspects of modern day Doom, aspects of Prince of Persia. They think it only takes three different lines. And like I said, the only way to understand that is to actually try building Super Mario, try building those individual mechanics from scratch. You're not going to build commercial level projects at your first attempt, which is pretty obvious, but it's something that most people cannot accept. Your first projects are going to be extremely rudimentary, like nowhere near commercial level, but you're going to learn so much along the way, which will eventually help you create your dream game. But it's a long process. It's a long process of going through C++, different libraries and APIs, and building your own layers on top of those things, and building more layers so that you can design your game and express your ideas. And that takes time, just like how, learning a foreign language takes many years. Learning software engineering takes years, if not decades. And I've been constantly saying this. I'm not even an expert. My level of understanding of code is the minimum requirement if you want to build something like Super Mario or anything more complex. So I've been rambling for a while, but I'm just rambling about why I'm thinking about creating C++ tutorials. It's basically show, not tell. I've been telling people to go to the basics. Even though this is just one anecdote of my experience, this is the path I took. I remember myself downloading Unity for the first time and not understanding anything. And I also remember the sensation that I felt after going through C++ and DirectX and then using Unity. I remember the sensation of not everything. Things make a lot more sense now. And I feel like I can build something that might not even be commercial level, but something that is at least a few steps closer to my dream game. And even though I don't really have a success hit title, I did manage to get hired by a professional game dev studio, work my way up the ladder. It was pretty short, but work my way up, build, help them publish a game, or get myself working on some simple indie games. I mean, even simple indie games took me a long time to learn. And even though I'm a slow learner, I think the overall road the direction of the overall road doesn't really change. You have to go through certain things that these professional studios are looking for. And it's pretty obvious, if you don't have these skills, you're not going to get hired, or you're not going to have the skills that these companies require, or the skills that are required to build the similar type of games that these companies are building. And obviously, as a single person, you're not going to be able to build company level polished, good looking video game. But in terms of the technology, in terms of your understanding for that technology, you need to have a certain level of experience to be able to build something that resembles AAA games. So I've been doing some Googling. I went to Amazon and typed C++, and this was the first thing that came up. I might just order this and look through, and basically I'll be retracing the path that I took. And instead of telling people to go back to the basics, I'm going to show them. I might show them, this is something that I haven't really decided yet. I might show them that, this is how I got started. If I could do it, so could you. But there is a caveat. There is one condition where you have to look at this as a long-term project. You have to have the persistence. Is it persistency or persistence? You have to have the patience. You have to work hard for many months, if not years. And that's pretty much all it takes. I think if you want to be a decent coder, it's probably not going to turn you into a person that can build a commercial game engine by yourself. But if you have the patience and the long-term planning, you can at least get up to a certain level. Or you'll find out that you actually hate it and you don't want anything to do with it. And that's also a plus, because you're learning that you shouldn't be wasting your time. But anyways, this book is pretty much a random choice, and the only reason why I chose C++ is because I want to expand my idea of going step by step all the way to DirectX, and then eventually to Unity. All the companies that I mentioned, well, not specific companies, but these $1 million, billion making companies, at least in my city, a lot of their games are based on C++. So this is pretty much a random choice, but a lot of people have different opinions on which language you should start in. I'm just saying this is my choice. Some people start in Java, some people start with Python, or whatever language that is popular or they stumble across. Doesn't really matter. But for me, because I want to eventually go into DirectX and C++, this is my first choice. And the book, not only is it the first thing on the list, it does seem to have pretty good reviews. So I might order this, go through, basically just go through the steps that I mapped out here, how I became an indie game developer version 2, and eventually work my way up and record the process. All my videos are based on me starting a Unity project, but I don't have any videos on how I started from scratch, other than talking about it, how I started from scratch, work my way up to simple 2D games and eventually 3D games. So I think there could be some value in putting that on video. But you're also welcome to disagree with me. You can always reach me on my Discord server. If you want me to not do this, that's also an option. If you want me to not do this and just focus on the current Unity project that I'm doing, the 2.5D platformer, I mean, if you want me to do that, you can say it. I might disagree or agree with you, but you can definitely say it. And if you have any other ideas, comments, questions, suggestions, you're more than welcome to try to reach me on my Discord server. So that was my rambling. I'm not sure if it made any sense at all, but I don't know. It's just what I think. Thanks for watching. I haven't decided if I'm gonna commit myself to C++ tutorials or not. Let me know what you think, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.